There's a couple new faces here for the TimeGuessr Daily Challenge. Welcome in. I have been recording my best attempts at the Daily Challenge for about the past 3 weeks. Previously, I have been lurking in the competitive GeoGuessr realm and came across this game, decided to try some attempts on my own, and it has turned into a pretty regular nighttime routine for me. I am by no means any expert in history, geography, culture. I just happen to be a doctoral student with not much of a social life, a hobby, and a lot of spare knowledge floating around up there of trivial things. So thanks so much. I'm glad you're here. I was explaining in the last video, so my goal this week is to try to get a 49,000 score on one of the daily challenges. We're gonna see if this is gonna happen because I do have more of that influence, which is really fast-paced, gut reaction, intuitive, coming from GeoGuessr. I'm starting to recognize this does not apply so much for TimeGuessr. It's okay to slow down. It's okay to take time. Pretty significant differences that in a lot of these photos in this game, you always have to keep in mind that there's a person behind the camera. It's not a car or a Google Street View that's taking photos just off wherever in the wilderness. And so more than likely, we're gonna come across some famous places, historical reference, unless we don't get out in nature too much. I mean, I haven't come across any Ansel Adams photographs. So really applying a lot of just history knowledge, cultural knowledge, language, architecture, fashion, street view, trends, cars has really come in handy for this game. Point being, I'm glad you're here. Let's see what the daily challenge has in store for us today. Am in one of the later time zones of the world, if it wasn't apparent. For many people, it has already moved on to be Tuesday. It is still Monday for me, so I do post these pretty late. One thing in this image that is clearly standing out is the segregation sign. We have a bus station. One bus is traveling to St. Louis, the other bus to Chattanooga. I don't know if this has any identifiable information. So on paper, public segregation ended with the Civil Rights Act in 1964. There were, however, a couple of holdout states, particularly in the South, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, which inclines me to probably go for one of these 3 states. Where would this bus be traveling from is the question. It's just how arbitrary segregation was and how stupid, quite frankly. So we have the waiting room and separate on the buses, but everybody's just intermingled getting on the bus. It doesn't make a lick of sense, nor did it at the time. I'm just gonna guess Atlanta. It would be a fair guess. Does this bus station still exist today? That's a great question. I don't know, but probably just going somewhere in the downtown corridor here, where transportation might have been likely just as much in what I'm guessing is probably the 1950s. Although looking at, I have this meta developing just about hats. People started wearing hats less and less, in particular men, at 1950 cutoff. you start to see fewer and fewer hats being worn. So to be safe, I'll just say 1949. And it was quite earlier, 1943, and not in Atlanta. That was in Memphis, a bus station. So not off to a particularly great start here. That's okay. We keep going. He is everywhere. This is a political figure demonstration. I believe this is Modi in India. Appears to be, I'm not very strong with the Indian language, but I think that just going for New Delhi is reasonable. Is there anything we can look at? MCD on duty. I wonder what that means. MCD. How about right there? And this would have had to have been in the last 5 years or so. I'll say 2023. Okay, that was actually just quite recently. Not only a cardboard cutout, there are multiple cardboard cutouts by the road. So made up some points back with this one. Here we have a very recognizable athletic figure in Muhammad Ali. I cannot name his opponent. This is a stadium that is not in Europe nor North America. I have no knowledge about where this particular fight would have happened, or actually when. It's reasonable to guess that he was probably around this age in the 70s, at the height of his career. I can't say for sure. Just seeing, I'm slowing myself down here, if there's any other clues that can be gathered with the English Latin script. I think my best guess is going to be Jakarta, Indonesia. Although this could very well be Philippines or Malaysia, or even Singapore. Not feeling too strong about that. Muhammad Ali fighting Joe Buchner in Kuala Lumpur. He won the fight after 15 rounds. Yeah, that is some stamina and endurance. But this was in 1975 in Kuala Lumpur. All right, couple things that stand out, namely that this is in Britain, in what is most likely to be coal country. I'm not particularly familiar with coal in the UK, although I think it's further up more in the northern regions in Britain. Hairstyles and just kind of overall aesthetic. This is some telling early 90s fashion. Rocking that ski suit there. Fashion, hats, and car meta quite helpful in narrowing down a number of things in this game. So I am going to guess Manchester here, and let's go 1991. Was this Faulty Towers era? Is anybody a Faulty Towers fan of that show? This was in 1992, but supporting for this campaign. Where is this? Kind of outside of London, Reading Caversham. All right. And for the final round today, we have some very fashionably dressed people, some post-colonial European architecture, very clear French language. This is going to be in Paris. I think the telling sign to help with year is this car right here. Studying up on makes and models of vehicles would serve me well in my quest for 49,000 points, which we are not getting today, but that is all right. And we are back to a computer lag, so I am just going to continue to talk while that map finishes loading based on this woman with the fur stole who is walking behind the man. That appears quite 1920s, particularly maybe in the late 1920s. We'll say 1929. And that was in 1935. We were off. That is the Paris Opera. Any sightings of the Phantom? Did not do particularly well today. 42,519. Thank you so much for dropping by. If you played along, how was your experience with this game? Feel free to leave a comment. If you have any interesting tidbits, I'm always willing to learn, and I really appreciate it. Hope you have a great rest of your week.